Welcome to the last panel, which is focusing on where's technology going next, the future, and weak signals that we may find that are giving some indication of what it's all about. I'm delighted to be joined by Jaeden, Ben, and Brandon, and I'm going to ask if they can each introduce themselves. So, Jaeden, you give us a brief introduction.
Yeah, great to be here. Super excited. My name's Jaeden Schafer. I host the AI Chat podcast. It's the #1 AI podcast. I cover pretty much for the last year, I've covered every AI project and every piece of AI news that has happened. So really interested in everything happening in this space. And then at the same time, I'm the CEO of AI Box, which is a no-code AI app builder and marketplace. So kind of in the projects and news side, and then also in the actively building technology in the space.
Thank you, Jaeden. Ben, welcome.
Hi, yeah, I'm Ben Laurie. I'm really a security guy, but I spent the last 8 years or so working in AI research groups where security tends to translate into safety. Yeah, and so I do that kind of stuff. I do a lot of open source too.
Thank you, Ben. Brandon?
Good day, everyone. It's great to be here. I'm Brandon Carson. I'm the global head of learning, leadership, and cultural experiences at Starbucks, and been a lifelong L&D professional going on 25 years now. So really happy to be here with you all.
And Brandon, could you tell us briefly what your previous job was, if you don't mind?
I led talent development for Walmart, where I was also leading our education and credentialing platform as well, where we provided education opportunities, academic degrees, and short-form learning credentials for our U.S. workforce.
Thank you for that. Sorry to put you on the spot like that, but it's fascinating to me that the size of the workforce that you were, learning and responsible for, and your attitude, which was, no matter what background they came from or what schooling system they'd come through, you had a reality was to teach and to train and to upskill at scale. And that's part of some of the things we want to talk about today. But before we go into that, what's your view, Brandon, on Gen AI and the future? And are you pro? Are you against? Are we mammalian? Is it existential? What do you think?
No, I think we're at a really big inflection point. This has been great. Listening to the previous two panels, it's just been great soaking it all in. But when I focus on my practice, which is the people practice inside of corporate organizations, which impact pretty much my last job, the largest private workforce, and this one now, which is significant as well. And these are, in a lot of ways, the most vulnerable workforce when you look at the two worker types, the physical worker and the cognitive worker. But no, I'm really happy about where we're going and the acceleration that's been happening. I firmly believe for L&D, the next 5 years will be more transformational than the last 50. And it's critically important for all of us in the people practice inside of corporations to develop a deeper acumen around AI and understand how it will bring efficiency, rigor, and adaptable relevance to the products that we build and deliver for the workforces that we support and for the businesses that we support. So I think, yes, there's a hype cycle and a lot we don't know yet, which has really become evident in hearing the great speakers you've had. But we can't bury our head in the sand. And like Noah said earlier, we can't just rely on the bling aspect of it. We really need to understand the significant impact AI will have on every job and worker, and understand that new ways of working will evolve, and we have to be the center of transformation for that in the people practice. So I'm excited about AI and where it's going.
Thank you, Brandon. Ben?
Yeah, so I think generative AI is misnamed because it really isn't intelligent at all. I think it displays, no intelligence whatsoever, at least in my experiments with it. I think actually what we're seeing is a bias in humans that has not been previously recognized, I suspect for obvious reasons, which is that fluency looks like intelligence. And I think, a lot of people are conned by these models into thinking that they're being intelligent because they're very fluent. And, my personal position is that there's something about cognition and knowledge that we have absolutely no idea how it works, and we haven't made any progress whatsoever towards doing that. I think the risk of superintelligence using Gen AI as it currently exists is effectively zero, because we haven't even got intelligence, which is not to say they're not useful. I mean, they do a fantastic job of sifting through huge amounts of data and acting as great predictors of what similar data will look like, and that's an extremely useful thing to do, but it isn't intelligence.
Fascinating. Jaeden, what are you learning from your million subscribers?
Yeah, pretty much what I am seeing in this space is that I tend to agree with Ben that we have not. I think it's kind of it's funny we call it artificial intelligence. I don't think it's intelligence. It's computer algorithms. It's software. It's trained to do a certain thing. But in no means do I think it's intelligent. That being said, I don't think that matters. I think that's literally irrelevant whether it's intelligent or not, because it can accomplish a task. And so from what I'm seeing and what I believe is that within the next 5 years, we will have at least the capability, regardless of whether it's implemented or not, the capability of replacing a majority of jobs today. And I'm not saying, all jobs will disappear and we're going to have to do universal basic income and no one's going to work. I think jobs will change. I think one of the big shifts is we'll go from people being essentially task completers, like an employee is working on a task, to now we're system creators, we're creating systems. But I think when you start combining, what we call AI, artificial intelligence, but really these softwares and tools, and you start combining them with humanoid robots and like robotics and where that's going in the next 5 years, I think blue collar, white collar, all jobs will be able to be automated and most functions will be able to be replaced with AI.
That's amazing. Most functions replaced by AI within 5 years. It's a huge impact on the workforce globally, right? So what are the weak signals of what comes after? You mentioned universal basic income, which is everybody getting some cash, because if we're going to have a capitalist system that drives and generates objects, they have to be purchased, and consumers need to purchase things with money. That's a very simplistic way of thinking about it, I know, but what are some of the weak signals about what's coming after, or what are we mutating into? It's Brandon.
I think, when we look at how one of the biggest areas I see is how we make decisions too. So it's really, yes, a lot of AI will work on task-based, will have its impact with task-based work. And we know how companies work. If something can be automated, they will automate it, and that will have a big impact. I agree with Ben and the other, and Jaeden as well, on the impact to the workforce will be significant. But I think that we also have to think about decisions. So in the workplace, decisions will be impacted. How we make decisions will be impacted. There will be human-only decisions reserved for more conceptual and less contextual decisions. There will be machine-only decisions. There will be machines that are responsible for most of those routine decision-making questions, if you will. And then collaboration between humans and machines. So working together, machines and humans will validate decisions. And so I think what we have a hard time grasping right now is just the ways of working. I mean, if you look across L&D and HR in a lot of respects right now, what's the number one conversation we're having? It's return to office and ways of working, and how we can bring these back together after the pandemic we just had, right? And so I think, yes, technology is exponentially advancing, but there are decisions that are being made about ways of working and just what work really means that are not necessarily moving at the speed of technology. And so we will have to synthesize these things as we go forward, because just the last couple of years has been basic questions about office and work and what it means to come back to work or not back to work, and and all of these different things as jobs are evolving, as job architectures are evolving, and as we look at work in different ways. So I don't, that's why I'm not so bullish on the speed of technology driving everything. I think it's how we make decisions about how we want to work that will really drive a lot of how we integrate this technology.
That's fascinating. Weak signals for you, Ben, and do you agree with the decision making as a huge focus?
I mean, I do think that, as I said, there's no intelligence there, and so I think what we're going to see, with at least with stuff that's derived from the AIs of today, is the replacement of mundane tasks, things that you don't have to think about very hard. And I'm not sure what the limits of don't have to think about are, but I'm pretty sure that as I said before, that cognition as we know it and knowledge are not things that we're seeing in these models, and I don't think we will see them without a radical change in how we make them and how they work. And so, I'm not saying that's not going to happen. I think we might figure that out. I expect we will figure that out eventually, but I have absolutely no idea whether that's in 10 years or 100 years or 1,000 years. But in the meantime, I do think that routine stuff is the kind of stuff that'll get replaced. I think somebody made the distinction between knowledge workers and I can't remember what the other one was, but physical work, I guess.
Physical, yeah.
And I think and I don't see it as a bad thing, eliminating the need for the drudgery. But I do think that things that require you to think hard will still require you to think hard. And these tools might help you with it. I mean, for example, I've used Copilot in Visual Studio Code for coding, and it saves me a lot of typing. It doesn't save me much thinking because it's almost always wrong in at least subtle ways.
Yeah. And you talk about we need to look at our own cognition and understand what human cognition is before we can even begin to model it. And you think the models that sit within the current tools that are out in the market are not there yet. But then the fascinating thing, you talked about fluency and intelligence and things that seem fluent present as intelligent to us, and we deem them intelligent just because they're fluent. That blew up in the chat. People really reacted to that quite well.
I just want to say I'm not sure that our own cognition is a good one to model on. One of the things I've always wondered is why we want to replicate humans, because humans are kind of shit. I would prefer a better kind of cognition, to be honest.
Yes. So this is, I mean, just briefly, where are we finding examples of better cognition other than human? I mean, you don't. Yes.
I mean, nowhere. But I really think that reproducing what humans do is not a great idea. They're unreliable. They lie. They've got their own motives. There's all sorts of stuff that you don't want in your servants, right?
Very soft. Yes, exactly. So that's another track we should go down at some point. What is the better cognition that we're looking for down the line? But Jaeden, it's back to you. What are some of the weak signals you're hearing? Thinking about where things that may give us an indication of where things are going in the future, stuff to follow down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, well, first off, I don't think the whole universal basic income. So it's regardless of people's opinions or on what I have to say, this is obviously something that Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, talks about a lot. He believes that's where it's going. I don't believe that that is the solution. I don't believe universal basic income is going to be the solution. And part of the reason is, while I said most jobs today will be automated or replaced, however you want to phrase it. And I believe that. I don't think that the people doing those jobs will be replaced and have nothing to do. And that's kind of the assumption a lot of people are making, like, oh my gosh, if the AI can automate and do everything that's being done by people today, all these people are going to be jobless. I don't think that's going to happen. I think, the big shift is going to be people will move from task doers to system creators. And essentially you're going to be able to 10x your outputs. But I think a lot of people will still be doing things. Now, that being said, when it comes to the concept there is like in a business, if you have the ability to 10x your output, you are able to essentially just 10x the business or make it larger. And so that's kind of where that goes. But some places where this doesn't scale is in physical jobs. Like you think, trash man that comes and collects your garbage once a week. Some people are like, well, he's not getting replaced by AI. Well, probably the garbage truck will get replaced by a self-driving garbage truck, and there'll be a humanoid robot that operates it if there's any issues. So yes. And in that case, that person, there's only a finite amount of people that need their trash collected every week. And so there are a lot of jobs that those people will be completely replaced. I think, it's more productive rather than talking about, well, AI is not there today. It's unable to do a lot of things. It's not perfect. Like, look at the rate of progress. I think we're all seeing what's going on right now and extrapolate that for 5 years. Think about Moore's law. I know it was, it's for computer chips, not necessarily for artificial intelligence. But eventually, I think a lot of these jobs get replaced or automated. And so the most productive conversation we can have is, what does that look like? And, what do we do to the people that are displaced? And like, who's not getting displaced? What is shifting and changing? And I think that's kind of the area to focus on.
That's fascinating. I have a question for all of you. It's like, what do you wish the outcome would be? If you could wave a magic wand, what do you wish the outcome is going to be for this particular phase of humanity with AI and Gen AI? Shall we start with Jaeden? Let's start with you again.
Oh, I hate this question, but
sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, really, it's hard because for me, I do get a lot of fulfillment out of what I do. It's a ton of fun, like podcasting, for example, bringing in guests, networking. So like, to me, that's a ton of fun. And one thing I will say is just because AI or software could replace what I do, right? I could create an AI version of myself with an AI clone of my voice and an AI video. And it goes and gathers the news articles and it, creates like my thing every day. Just because AI can do something doesn't mean it will, or I'm not going to make the choice to have an AI run my podcast. Well, actually that's hard. If it could completely automate it, I might for some of the mundane things like the news, but there's like certain elements that I wouldn't. And so what do I hope the outcome is? I'm not sure it really matters what I hope the outcome is. I think the outcome is inevitable, and it is that most mundane things will be automated, and you'll still have the choice to choose whether you want to do your job or not. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one. I think it's inevitable, so I feel like it's just irrelevant what my hope is.
No, it's inevitable. We may as well ride the wave and surf it for as much as we can get at the moment, and then shift.
Right, the shifts will come.
The shifts will come. Ben, what do you think? What are the outcomes from you?
So I'm a big fan of E&M banks and the culture kind of setting, and I think the foundation of that is an abundance of resources and energy, but with AIs to help you consume them, right? By the way, I think this idea that AIs will create a ton of money and that will make us all rich is completely insane. Money is pointless. It's the resources and the energy that you need. But yeah, I think what I would love is infinite resource, or at least very large amounts of resource, and AIs to make me the toys I want to play with. Basically, I'm all about playing with toys.
And how about you, Brandon?
I think I agree. It's hard to predict things. I fear it will increase polarization and disinformation. I don't really see it as software. I see it more as like markets and bureaucracies and institutions. It's human created, so that's problematic to begin with. I do think that there are a lot of things, when you think of just the US, for example, we have a lot of challenges in front of us, especially the chasm being created between these two worker types, the physical and cognitive worker. And AI is going to expose a lot of that potential polarization, a lot of disinformation around that. We have an education crisis in this country. We've had nearly 1 million teachers leave our public school system since the pandemic, and 90% of our kids go through the American public education system. Most Americans don't have an academic degree, and most Americans don't have access to one. So I think we have a lot of societal challenges that AI can either fix or help fix, or can drive more polarization and increasing that chasm between the society. So I think it's too early to tell. I do have a lot of positive aspirations, obviously, but it's hard to see. You can be on the Hegel side of things, who thinks revolution will come, or you can be on the more like, yeah, we create jobs throughout humanity as technology has come, and we'll all be fine. So I don't know, but it'll be, like I said, the next 5 years are going to be quite interesting for us.
Do you think that AI is going to fundamentally change some of the institutions that we take for granted? This was something that came up in the chat about things like law. We know is being phenomenally shifted because AI does so much of the heavy lifting. Like, can you imagine AI going and finding all the case law and really bringing out things that you need, drudge work that you used to have to do as a lawyer, know everything in Butterworth, for example. It's changing the way that information can be presented in cases and in courts and so on, having a huge impact on the law itself. And of course, AI will become subject to law and copyright and IP and all that's going to be. But other institutions like our democracy, like our government, and our security, do you think that there are challenges, or do you think, I mean, are there things we have to watch out for? That's, I think, the basis of my question. Ben, what do you think?
I think, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I think, being assisted with doing things makes you worse at doing them without being assisted. And ultimately, I don't know if that's a great idea. So like, GPSs, I think were one of the early examples, I think, of widely used human assistance devices, and I think they caused people to be less good at knowing where they are and how to get to other places without them. I've always been quite good at that, but I definitely noticed that there are a lot of people who have literally no idea how to even get back to where their car is parked without a GPS. And it does concern me that, losing the faculties for doing the somewhat complicated things well might end up with everything being a bit shitter, because we're still needed, right, to worry about those things. And I think the more you can rely on something else to do it mostly right most of the time, the less good you're going to be about getting it, actually perfect. So I worry about this with programming, for example, as I mentioned earlier. One of the things that has frustrated me hugely in my very long now programming career is that I feel like it's obvious what I am trying to do, and I wish the computer would just do it for me. And then now it's starting to do that quite surprisingly well, actually. But it does worry me that the more of that goes on, the less I will see the mistakes it's making, and the more stuff will sneak through into production code and bite us in bad ways in the future.
To hang on to. We've only got 3 minutes left, which is such a great conversation. So I'm going to just ask us to bring it to a close now and ask each of you, what's the final thought you'd like to leave us with? Brandon.
I just say that I am an optimist with this. I do see some disturbing trends, obviously, with lack of access to education. I think that's a key point for us to think about. And also, I worry about AI becoming just a flywheel for authoritarianism, because our governments don't understand it and don't seem to be curious enough to seek a deeper understanding. So I'm generally an optimist, but lots of question marks.
Thank you. Jaeden?
Okay, my last thing I want to bring up, I don't know how this ties into anything, but this is just something I've been thinking about a lot today. So picture this. There's a company I think it's called like Personal AI, and there's a number of others where essentially you upload all of the articles you've ever written, YouTube videos you've ever created, podcasts I've ever recorded, essays you've ever written in college, whatever. You throw it all in there. It's called personal AI, and it makes it like a little chat of you. Okay. There's also a company called Rewind. They made this like neck pendant that you like wear around your neck with a camera. It follows you, watches everything you do and records it. And you can, oh, what did I say like 7 weeks ago? I mean, aside from an argument with, my wife and being like, I told you I said this, not that, it's on the Rewind. Okay. Other than that, a little dystopian, don't know if I'd wear it, but the data gathering tools are there. So imagine that capability mixed with a humanoid robot that is your own personal replacement. How many times have you heard someone say, oh my gosh, I wish I could clone myself? Imagine a humanoid robot that has all of that data in. And so when people say like, oh, X, Y, and Z job function or role won't get replaced by an automated system, is what I'm calling it instead of AI, if you don't want to believe it has intelligence. Think about the capabilities of cloning yourself 10 times and having each of them do different things that you do. This isn't just in the software world. We're not just talking about, this AI is doing a software thing on your computer screen. This transfers into the real physical world. And I think the implications are, whether you like it or not, we should have discussions and start thinking about what that means and what that future might look like.
Fascinating. Brilliant. Thank you. And Ben, last word.
Yeah. I just want to mention that Jaeden's idea of recreating people by, recreating all of the things that they did comes up in a great sci-fi book called Accelerando by Charlie Stross back when he wrote good books, which I highly recommend. Anyway, I think, my final thought is I actually think we're in for, a disappointing next few years. I think that most of the loud voices in this space are very incentivized to do one of two things. One is to get books published and newspaper articles published, etc., by declaring our untimely doom, and the other is to prop up the valuation of their ridiculous companies by explaining how awesomely intelligent these things are and how again they're going to cause our AI doom. Don't believe either of them. Like I say, I think we're a far way off intelligence, and I think we're going to stay that way for a while yet.
Thank you, Ben. As Miss Marple said, follow the money. But I'd like to thank you all, Jaeden, Ben, and Brandon, for fascinating conversation, looking at where's technology going next, the future and some weak signals. So much in there. Thanks again. And I'm going to hand over to Simon.